Welcome back to the Sacred Purpose podcast. I have a guest today, Lindsay Keach Bronstein, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. She has come new to my world within the last year, and I feel so incredibly blessed to get to know her. She's an instant soul sister, brings a lot of vitality and joy to the work that she does as a human, as a friend, and as a practitioner and an expert in her field. And I cannot wait to share the wealth of wisdom and knowledge and blessings that she has to share. And I really do feel like this episode will be a blessing to anybody who wants to tune into this, who really wants to connect to their body in a really deeply nourishing way through the lens of wellness and thriving through midlife, through health crises, through all the things that we do as women in the ways that we work within our body. And Lindsay has a way of really traversing the science and the spiritual and that relationship with body in a way that I think feels like she offers a lot of wisdom and tools to make it doable, if that makes any sense. I'm going to let Lindsay dive into this because I'm not doing it all the justice that I could be, but stick around. I think you're going to really love this episode and you're just going to fall in love with Lindsay much the way that I have. She's an integrative dietitian and health coach who has spent nearly 2 decades helping people transform their relationship with their bodies from projects to fix into caring, collaborative partnerships. After her own diagnosis with Crohn's disease in her early 20s, Lindsay learned firsthand that healing isn't just about treating symptoms. It requires a completely different relationship with your body, one built on care and curiosity rather than control. The journey has become the foundation of the body partnership method. Okay, so you already know she's speaking my language right to my heart. Let's dive in. Lindsay, welcome to the show. Can you just give us a little bit of background on you and where you're at today?
Yeah. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation. Yes. So I started actually way back in the day as a graphic designer and art director. And so there's a part of me that has this like real artist sensibility. And I think that really resonates with you and a lot of the work that you do. I just feel like you exude this beauty and embodied spirit that I'm so grateful for, and I know all your listeners are also so grateful for. Anyway, that was sort of my start. And then, as you mentioned, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in my early 20s. And, I was not grateful for that diagnosis at the time, as you can imagine. I mean, I was living a full life, in San Francisco, working 40 to 60 hours a week, traveling all over the place, and it really stopped me in my tracks. And now I see that and feel so grateful for the fact that I have this body, this really kind of exquisitely sensitive body that really spoke to me. Like it really sent me some very clear messages because I, at that time, was definitely a very type A kind of charge ahead person. And, I think for me, a lot of my softness and emotion was landing in my gut. And so what that kind of forced me into at the time, I'm not going to say that I went willingly, but at the time, it really forced me into this journey of trying to fix it. And at that time, I think that was my attitude. I was like, let's just fix this. Let's get it out of here, get it under control. Obviously something's broken. So we need to figure out what the tools are going to be to make it be unbroken so that I can carry on with my life, living my life the way that I think that I want to do it. And so that looked a lot of different ways. I mean, I did the allopathic kind of traditional medicine approach. I got into functional medicine. I was doing acupuncture and I saw a naturopath and I was doing yoga and therapy. And I mean, you name it, I was sort of like scrambling around, continuing to live my life and doing all these things kind of around the edges, right? In the early
Isn't this what we do? Yeah.
Yeah. And I had an amazing coach. And at some point in my work with her, she gave me some tough love. And she said, Lindsay, I would love to keep working with you. And something has got to change. You cannot keep relating to yourself in this way and relating to, your healing in this way, nothing's ever going to change. If you keep trying to add more, you know, eventually that led me to do the work that I'm doing today. And more immediately, what it led me to realize is that I really needed to build a life that my body could live in and could thrive
Ooh,
in.
ooh, I love that.
And so my illness really illuminated all of the ways that was not happening. And it was a hard lesson to learn at that age. And now I'm so grateful because it started me on my path to doing my soul's work.
Yeah.
It started me on my path to doing inner work. It really ignited a spark in me of scientific inquiry, interest in integrative medicine, seeing and feeling the power that the foods that we eat and the way that we live and our attitude about ourselves and the way that we create or don't create accommodation and space for ourselves in our
Mm.
lives are all so powerful and so interwoven in terms of sort of healing and thriving.
Oh my gosh. So many things that you're saying are resonating on such a deep level. And I don't want to like overwhelm my response with everything, but essentially there's a lot of hell yes happening inside my body, but there's also this softening that's happening of like hearing and recognizing truth to the words in my body, feeling like, yes, this is what we crave. Like it feels seen in a way. And I can't help but think that there's other women feeling this too. And I think it speaks actually, whether it's been Crohn's disease or in my case, breast cancer or something else. This is these exquisitely sensitive bodies that you described is, you realizing you have this exquisitely sensitive body. And I think at the core, women are exquisitely sensitive, and we've been forced into this container that just doesn't sustain life. And so when you talk about building a life that your body can live in, I just feel like that's the matriarchy. Let's redesign bodies or lives that we can live and exist in. And I've heard you say this, and I'm so curious to dive into this a little bit more. I have a feeling like where it leads me, but I really want to hear this from you when you say the body is often the last frontier for so many conscious soul-led women. I was wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, well, I'm going to caveat this by saying this is not true for
Mm-hmm.
all women, of course, or for all
Mm-hmm.
people. But I think that there can be a way in which we have done so much work and so much growth in all of these other areas of our lives. Like we're doing our morning practice, we're in it with our abundance work and with our spiritual work, and we're, killing it on the career front. And our bodies can be this real tender spot where,
Mm-hmm.
because we did not have the benefit of growing up in a matriarchy, because our bodies have only been really immersed in this, patriarchal, colonial,
Mm-hmm.
capitalist society where bodies are productivity machines. Like in this value system, our job is to produce and to be online all the time, to have as much uptime as possible. We have sort of this, healthism, like cult of health. Women's bodies are supposed to be small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's huge profit to be gained by keeping us kind of in this frenzied way, always trying to perfect and
Mm-hmm.
optimize and fix. And so I think that it's so natural that we just carry a lot of shame and a lot of tenderness and a lot of difficulty in this way that we relate to ourselves. And I think that I'll just speak to what I experience. What I experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so enmeshed in this work. I mean, I've been doing this work for
Mm-hmm.
years. And what I still experience is that this huge part of me knows the way that
Mm.
I want it to be. And then there's still this patterning and these tapes that especially are inclined to come up when we're in pain or when we're experiencing some kind of like rupture between what's happening or feeling of out of control. I mean, I'm in perimenopause right now, right? So this is like the prime
Yeah.
example, like prime ground where we
Yeah.
can fall into these old patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And what I also want to honor is that it's okay to want to make positive change in your life. It's okay to want to be getting out of pain. It's okay to want to
Mm.
feel beautiful and vibrant and juicy.
Yeah.
And there is a real, the posture from which you approach it can make all the difference, right? If we're
Mm.
approaching that desire to change from a place of acknowledging our inherent worthiness and beauty and of truly wanting to give like the most loving, tender, beautiful care to this vessel, to ourselves, that feels so different
Mm.
and will land so differently than when we are approaching change from a place of not accepting ourselves.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I'll love my body after I lose the 10 pounds
100%.
versus I love my body, therefore I will care for it till we feel good inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You mentioned something there that made me really think about the overwhelm of information, especially in the wellness space. And it's nearly impossible to sift through it all, right? That we're getting between ads and influencers and girlfriends and all the good intentions out there, you know, whether we need it or not, we then start questioning, well, maybe I do need this thing. And our bodies are constantly evolving, much like you may or may not have a chronic condition, but you're also going to continue to evolve and experience menopause or something else, right? Childbirth or postpartum or all the things and ways that our bodies evolve and change over time. So even when you think that maybe you've got it all figured out, you're going to still need to be in tune and notice something else is evolving, something else is changing, and now what do I need? And how do you bring together or filter the evidence-based world, what's actually needed? Because there certainly is an element to that, and the intuitive and the embodiment of what you really need.
That's such a great question. Yeah, so that's part of what I think is so powerful about this body partnership method is that we treat science as the map, right? But your body is really the compass. So I'll make that more specific. One of the things that we do is cultivate, and I know that these are practices that you have too. But so one really foundational thing is really bringing your body to the table in a clear and meaningful way. So for me, what that looks like is as part of my morning practice, when I'm connecting with the Great Mother and my ancestors, I'm also inviting my body to that part. So, and I ask like, "Hey, body, how are you feeling
Mm.
today? What do you need today?" And that's
Mm.
part of the information. And for me, that's an iterative process that, I mean, I may do that same thing at lunch. Like, what do you need right now?
Mm.
Salad or soup? Some of us do this unconsciously, but a lot of us are also on autopilot, and like, well, I was told that I should have salad for lunch, so guess I'll have salad again, even
Mm.
though, that may feel great on one day, and then in another day or another season may not feel good at all. So there's this real kind of moment to moment touching in and connecting. And then there's what I call the body partnership lab. And that's where we really get in there and we say, like, okay, we start with listening. And that could look a lot of different ways. That could look like symptoms that you're experiencing. That could look
Mm.
like doing a little meditation and seeing what comes up, right? That might look like, honestly, wearing a continuous glucose monitor or getting some lab work. That's all
Mm.
signals that your body's sending that we can listen to.
Mm.
And then we try to translate and interpret those signals. And that's where it can be helpful to have, a partner, right? Like if you are not yourself someone who reads research or has done a lot of clinical work, like this is where it might be helpful to have a dietitian or a guide or a naturopath or a functional medicine practitioner or your PCP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone who can kind of be a partner in that translation process.
Yeah.
And then we make an experiment. I am so into experimentation. So then we say, hey, I think maybe I'm feeling spacey and low energy because maybe my blood sugar's off a little bit. And so, because it's like happening every afternoon in the middle of the afternoon, and it's really a bummer. And I'm finding myself reaching for coffee at that time of day. But then that makes it so that I can't sleep. So that's not a pattern that I really want to engage with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what I'm going to try to do instead is notice the time that I start to feel kind of spacey and I'm reaching for coffee. Maybe I'm going to back that up by like 30 minutes and I'm going to try to have a balanced snack. And I'm just going to try to do this every day for a week. And then I'm going to notice what happens. And then we check back in and we're like, what happened? How did that work?
Mm.
How did your body respond? Was that actually the correct hypothesis? And did the things you reach for feel satisfying? What was your experience of being in your body during this time? And what shifted? And then it's spiralic and iterative. There's always more experiments to do. Obviously, we're more interested in doing those experiments when
Mm-hmm.
there's something there's a message that we got, right? That we're trying to
Yeah.
respond to. As a clinician, I think, you know, I will first scan for safety, right? Because I'm a big believer in intuition. I mean, I know that you have been a midwife and, I guide a lot of women through pregnancy. And one of
Mm-hmm.
my biggest things is, sister, if you have a craving, you honor that craving because I think pregnancy is one of those times when our body speaks so loudly.
Yeah.
She's not going to let us get away with
Yeah.
ignoring her.
Nope.
And there's so much wisdom in that. So
Yeah.
I feel like if someone's drawn to something, if something has like crossed their field, first we're going to scan for safety. And then I'm going to do a pass of, is this reasonable? Like, what are the claims that are being made here? Does this feel like
Mm.
something that would have, a reasonable chance of making sense for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hey, if this makes sense and it seems safe and you're feeling drawn to it, let's make an experiment. Let's
Mm.
do a therapeutic trial of it, and see how it feels. And this will not be true for everything, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
some things we do, like I take vitamin D because I know I run low in vitamin D. So I don't
Yeah.
necessarily feel different when I take vitamin D, but I take it. So there are
Mm-hmm.
some things like that. But there are a lot of things where I'm like, I really want you to feel better after whatever
Mm-hmm.
time frame. Like, we know that magnesium for migraines can take 3 months to show any difference, right? So I'm not going to ask you to feel immediately better from taking magnesium. But if you've
Mm-hmm.
been taking it for 3 months and we don't see any change, we're going to question that. And we're going to
Mm-hmm.
dive back in and see if there's something else, that might be more effective for you. I'm really into figuring out the things for you in this season of your life that really move the needle.
Wow. I love that. And I didn't know that that would take 3 months for magnesium to help a migraine,
It
series.
doesn't for
So that's
everyone.
right, but that's interesting. That is
Almost
interesting and good
everything
to keep in mind.
Yeah, almost everything has sort of like so one of the things that I always look at with supplements is, what if we look at all the clinical trials that have been done, and sometimes there are and sometimes there aren't, but what was the average sort of time to treat? Like when could we
Mm.
expect to see, because some things are quicker than others.
Yeah, and I think that that's what we're used to, and we're used to thinking that something is going to be a quick fix. And I think that that's where we often get caught in the trap of then trying something else, because we don't really know, or maybe we've lost track. Maybe we didn't, we have a weird sense of time. How much time has actually passed versus what we think if we haven't tracked it appropriately. And I know how frustrating that can be, right? When you feel like you said, when you're not getting that positive feedback loop from, trying different things, and you're not maybe tracking it very well, or you don't have somebody, tracking it with you. And even, going back to my diagnosis and what you said earlier, when you first start having something that sends you down this path, it's usually from a place of discomfort, right? Like something has prompted this journey to want to be more well. And usually it's something that's triggered by some discomfort or some diagnosis or some pain.
Yeah.
And getting to a place where you can appreciate these signals that your body's giving you versus being frustrated that this is happening to you, and how that journey begins to feed into, I'm getting to my question, into being willing to try and be curious, right, in this way. And the way you're talking about it, it does feel like a good way to build that relationship with body, because then you're listening for those feedback signals and accepting that even the signals that don't feel good is still information. Like, oh, okay, thank you for telling me that this doesn't work. Okay, thank you for telling me that this does feel good. And being able to maintain sort of that mindset and the willingness to try. I think that there's an interesting dynamic, and I heard this mentioned somewhere else today too, so it's top of mind, between acceptance and giving up. And if you could distinguish the two for me, I think I would love that.
I love that question. Again, I think this is like such fertile territory because, and this is something I've been thinking about. I will answer your question. This is
It was a long question. I got there.
I've been thinking about a lot. Is both how do we accept ourselves fully and still work toward change, right? How do we hold that seeming paradox? And to answer that, I think it really does come back to that idea of, or that posture of, I am all the way worthy right now. And I am all the way whole right now. And that doesn't mean that my body is going to work perfectly or look exactly the way I want her to, or have the kind of capacity that I might want her to. And so it is both so human to want to always be in expanded capacity, right? In sort of like optimal performance. And the reality is that is not the human experience.
Yeah.
And I would argue that that's not even what we're here for. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I reflect on the biggest, richest growth opportunities in my life, there's almost always some aspect of moving through something hard or something painful and staying with myself and also moving toward healing, right? Like staying with yourself, not abandoning yourself, not layering. Shame is a terrible fuel source. So not layering shame and sort of self-abandonment on the picture. I think that's the answer. It's like we just work towards change while holding ourselves and saying, I see how hard this is. Like, I know how hard this is. Just like we would with one of our, I know we both have girls, right? Or like your boys, like we would with one of our children. We think about how we treat them. Of course, we give them Tylenol when they're sick, or whatever it is they need, but we're doing it while we're holding them and tending to them and, giving them cool water. And we would never expect them to get up and, go to school before they're ready or whatever. We create space for their healing.
Yeah. Compassion.
Yeah.
To be able to turn that on ourselves, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah. It's
And
tending
doing that.
that thing, I think, is part. It's like tending, deeply tending.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said earlier in the podcast that how did you say it? Like that this isn't like, I don't know that you said it wasn't a luxury or something, but more of a necessity. I just think about like in the world today when it just seems like there's so many things either in our homes or in the outside world or on social media that feel like they're on fire, right? Like we could just go around trying to put out fires all day long, and as it relates to building a life that our bodies can thrive in and live in and exist in, why would you say this work is important right now?
I mean, I think this work is important because I think that our relationship that we have with ourselves and with our bodies is our longest lasting, most intimate, most primary relationship. Literally the only relationship we will have from our first breath until our last breath. And what I see is to the extent that we can invite that genuine posture of care and acceptance for ourselves in all seasons and expressions, that is the extent to which we can offer that same posture of care and acceptance radically out into the world, right? Like that, to me, that's the work. It's not, I mean, I am so interested in
Mm-hmm.
personal growth and personal development, but it's like in service of what?
Yeah.
Why am I tending? Why am I becoming gentle? It's to like birth a new world. It's so that
Yeah.
we can raise kind, compassionate children. It's so that we can show up and be fueled for our work, but also so that we can create a
Mm-hmm.
dynamic in our work that allows us to flourish, right? It's
Yeah.
like this ecosystem that spirals inward and outward. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
one reason I'm just deeply uninterested in this like empty optimization loops that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I think at the bottom of those is this message that there's something broken and like we need to be
Right.
constantly like, zzz, you know?
Yeah.
And this feels like a way to step out of that.
Oof. That's why this matters right now. We need to step out of that. And I think unapologetically say we are creating a gentler, more nourishing world where we can thrive, where we can be healthy, where we can be well, where we can contribute in meaningful ways without burning ourselves out.
Because we need our bodies to be
Yeah.
in this world, right? We can't, we literally,
Yeah. I think we've absorbed all of the whatever this was that we can. I'm sorry if you're not watching on video. I'm spiraling and buzzing the way that you were a moment ago. That, what did you call it? Just this hyper fixation on productivity and biohacking and just so that we can continue to produce more. But what are we producing more of and for what for? What for? Yeah. I love that.
I
I'd like
also
to unwind. I'd like to de-spiral.
we want to
Yeah.
spiral all the way down and in, right?
Yeah.
And that really
Yeah.
feels like this
Up and out. Yeah.
up and out. Yeah. And I think that's actually like a deeply feminine thing
Mm-hmm.
too, right? That we are in and through the body.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
We
I love.
literally create life in our bodies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I really do believe that there's so much to come from within, that building that relationship with body is just going to open up so much more within you that will continue to guide you in other ways. That's really exciting. Like that's when the gratitude started to kick in for me on this journey of building relationship with my body. It was like, oh, she's got so much more to say than just what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Like, what else? Like, oh, thank God. Yeah. I like who's in here. I dig her. Like, let's learn some more. Yeah. What are we really here for?
And we've been talking about, getting out of pain because I think, as you eloquently said, that's often what draws us into this work.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much capacity for pleasure and
Mm,
joy and for using that to alchemize pain and
yeah.
discomfort. And so I want to hold that side of the coin too, right? It's like this
Mm,
tending. Yes, we might be drawn into it in moments of transition. And that's often when we create the space in our lives to do some deep work, right? That's when we're
yeah.
interested in running experiments and when things are crossing our
Mm,
field. We're trying to listen to these messages and honor them. And once we start the work, it's like then we can just invite in all this beauty and pleasure. And tending can be this just like delightful thing, right? Like tending a garden. You get to
yeah.
then enjoy all the blooms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 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 Yes to all the things and all the ways that we can tend to our body and create, more pleasure, more sensations, tuning into all the ways that our bodies receive information through touch and sound and voice and smell and visually beautiful things, right? Just like there's so many things that we can enjoy through our body, even if we're experiencing some form of discomfort or pain. We can still try to take it in through all these other incredible senses that we have and find a source of appreciation, even if it's the ability that I can see this beautiful flower and take in the textures and the scent of it. And I wonder what you would say for somebody, what practices that they could start with today if they're just beginning this journey or even on this journey, because sometimes we all need a little bit of a refresher.
Yeah. I mean, I do love just the little literally bringing your body to the table. I mean, I think this has some tendrils of parts work for anyone who's done that, right? We sort of invite all these aspects of ourselves to the table. And so really treating our bodies as a partner, right? Like another being who we need to honor and check in with and sometimes negotiate with too.
Mm,
It's like any relationship. No one person is running the show in a good relationship. There's back and forth. And so I think, in body partnership, what that means is that sometimes we are like, hey, body, I have a big thing that I'm going to do, and I need to actually push beyond what might be your comfortable capacity. And then I will replenish, right? And then I will tend.
mm,
And then sometimes your body's like, oh, hey, you know what? I actually need some attention. Like I actually need to run the show now. And so you need to reduce your capacity in these other realms. So I think there's this give and take. But yeah, that just really simple practice of like if you have a morning practice, or even before you get out of bed in the morning, just having that little conversation of how do you feel? What do you need? And seeing what comes up and then seeing what happens when you take a little action that is honoring that, right? Like if what you hear is, I need rest or I need nature or, um, I don't know. Now in perimenopause,
yeah. Tell me more about that.
I'm like, ovulation for me now is as much of a wild ride as my like premenstrual week. They feel somehow weirdly the same. I'm like bloated and out of sorts and so that was happening this week. And, and my body was like, you need to move. So I just, before I sat, I turned on a song and I like really moved my hips and really just like move some of that stuff through. So I think that's the follow up. It's like the checking in and then like what's one small way that you can honor what you heard. Yeah, that's where I would start.
I like the gentle movements. I think sometimes just a little bit of that, like for me, when I'm asking the questions, like just a little bit of a swirl in my body is just like,
Yeah.
I have to kind of like sink into it a little bit and allow for a little bit of movement and see what really is coming through. And sometimes it's surprising, like, huh, actually I feel better than I thought I did, like there's just like sometimes it's like the thing isn't always the thing and I find that that's interesting sometimes too. And sometimes it's an expectation of like something else is actually bothering me, but it isn't the thing that I thought it was. And so
Mm.
or I recognize it in a different way, or the feedback comes back with different information. And so for me, it helps to move my body a little bit when I'm asking the question. feel like I get a little bit more information. And sometimes, like I said, it's surprising. So it's always worth it when I do that. Even if I think like, I don't have time, or I'm late, or I've got to jump up and go do the thing or whatever. Like, just at some point in the day, like you said, like, being able to just allow yourself just even that 1 minute of space to check in. I always I will always get information, whether I like the information or not. Oh my gosh. I adore you so much. I would just love to be able to continue this conversation. I mean, gosh, menopause, the whole thing, life, being a woman. I think these conversations are so important. We are not alone. Having these conversations, being able to tune into a podcast or share it with a friend or check in with the women around you. We're not in this alone. We are all experiencing some form of this. And I truly believe that sharing these experiences will elevate and support us all. And so I'm just curious if before we close out this conversation, if there's anything else you'd like to share, and also let our listeners know where they can find you to continue this journey with you.
Yeah, probably the best place to find me right now is on my Substack, which is bodypartnership.substack.com. And you can subscribe and it's free. All the posts are free to everyone. And that's really where I'm right now, kind of teasing through some of these concepts. My website is feedhealth.com, and that's where my private practice lives. So if you're interested in, deeper work or have a health thing that's going on, that would be a place to find me. Yeah, what do I want to send people out with? I think it's just that developing this relationship is hard and so worth it, because I think this relationship you have with your body can become a fertile ground from which everything else grows and is given so much more life and texture and richness, and really from which we can then be, these beacons of light and change and hope for a new world. And yeah, I really see it as a way to go down and in, and then to spread out in right action in the world.
Yeah. Spread out and right action with the world. That just feels like it right there. Like when our bodies are in harmony, we are in harmony with the planet and the world. And so it feeds that. Lindsay, thank you. Thank you for your heart, your wisdom, this conversation. I think the world of you, and I'm so glad I get to share you with our listeners and obviously have you a part of my world and my sisterhood, and just really, really grateful for you. Thank you for being here today.
Same. You're a goddess, and I'm so grateful to know you and get to have spent this hour with you.